Welcome to a Thrifty Notion's Three Thrifty Things, monthly inspiration for mindful makers. In every episode, we're sharing a trio of bite-sized ideas we're loving for the season, from DIY projects to sustainable living tips. Are you ready to see what this month has to offer? Hey everybody, my name's Kelly, and I'm back for a Thrifty Notion's Three Thrifty Things, where each month we bring you 3 simple, scrappy, or sustainable tips to spark your creativity. This month, our theme was inspired by Grandma's house, and we've called it Sentimental Stitches, so I decided to come to my fiance's Mama's house. We're visiting with her today, and I'm soaking up all the inspiration and decided to just take a few minutes to go ahead and film this here. So this month, we have a simple tip that Grandma would definitely approve of, a tutorial for joining 2 yarns together in your knitting or crochet projects so that the yarn changes are invisible and you don't have a bunch of tails to thread in at the end of your project, as well as a project idea for making a scrappy scarf that Liv will show you, and it is a really great way to use up all of those little tiny balls of yarn you have left over from all of your projects. So I hope that you guys really enjoy these tips. Let's jump on into it. Our first tip is to wear an apron. And before I lose you, I know that aprons have gotten this reputation for being fussy and old-fashioned, maybe even a little bit high maintenance, but I think they are so practical. I cannot tell you the number of times I've ruined a piece of clothing with a rogue tomato sauce splatter or an oil stain that I just cannot get out no matter how many tricks I try. And so I think that aprons are really practical for keeping your clothing clean and helping it last longer. My favorite part about aprons is that you can customize them for a lot of different activities. So you could have a full-length apron for cooking, a waist apron for different craft activities. You could make even an egg collecting apron with individual pockets for each of your eggs if you have backyard chickens. And I know a lot of people that have gardening aprons as well. Even if you don't think you need one for cooking, you may find that there's a different activity that aprons would be really useful for, whether it be to protect your clothing or just to keep your tools handy.
All right, next up is a tip for joining threads together. It's going to be handy when you do the scrappy scarf thrifty thing. You will need to know how to join threads together or yarn together while you are crocheting, because if you're using scraps, you're just going to run out at random times and need to splice a new piece in. So here's a quick and easy trick that I learned that makes this pretty invisible, and it's not super complicated to accomplish. So the most complicated thing apparently is finding the end of the yarn. All right, so what you're going to do is you will need a rug needle, which most crocheters have because you use this to bury your ends. But if you do this, you won't have as many ends to bury. So you just thread your needle, and you're going to lay your new thread across your old, just like in a T shape. And then you're going to start sewing up and down through the thread. And this is a lot easier when a whole bunch of people aren't watching you. But you're just going to go back and forth quite a few times, just threading that on there and sort of bunching it up on the needle. Just keep going, just keep going. And then pull it through. And it's gonna pull your new thread with it, but then you just smooth it out and it disappears into itself. Then you take the other side. Now this is maybe a little long. I'm gonna pull this back through so it's a little bit shorter. Thread that one onto your rug needle. Okay. Go back and up and down through the thread. So you just do the same thing with your first and second threads, really. Okay. And then you just pull that one through. And if you have a piece hanging off at the end like this, there's enough here to hold it securely. So you can just snip that off, and then look, it will be invisible once it's crocheted in. So essentially an invisible join of 2 threads, which is super handy when you're crocheting. All right, so today I'm going to show you how to make a scrappy scarf. Well, just like plant the seed of the idea. I'm not going to show you how to do it. I will tell you how I did it. But it kind of has Mrs. Weasley vibes, and I get that. But it's designed or meant to help you use up all the little balls of yarn that are like this big, where it's like, what do we do with these? I mean, you can make pom-poms and stuff, but these little guys, they need a home. So I went through and picked out all the ones that were my colors. Basically, all of these colors can be found in my eyeballs. And so I know they match me. It is fairly thick and not super fluid, but it's very warm, and I have needed a very warm scarf this winter. I really like how I can spread it out like when I'm putting my coat on, and it's sort of like wearing a vest underneath my coat. It keeps me very warm. You could also, if you were super ambitious, I am doing a terrible job using this as a microphone. If you're super ambitious, you could actually make a blanket out of 3-inch squares if you were really, wanting a long-term project. But let me just kind of walk you through how I did this. But first I need to take this off because I am roasting. So step 1 is to go through the stash and find things that look cute together. This stash has been gone through once by me. I already made one scarf, so we might not have a whole lot to work with. It looks like we have a lot of purples and whites. But what we're really trying to get rid of are these little guys. So maybe we go bright. We have orange. And if I pull all these brights, I don't know if that's bright enough. Let's see. Ooh, that one's fun. So I'll pull out all these bright ones, and maybe our next scarf will just be really bright. Ooh, cute. That's a fun one. Sometimes if you get one that's multicolor, you can just use that as your palette choices. Like use that to determine what your colors are going to be, because it already looks cute in that yarn. You can just echo that in your yarn choices. So maybe we get rid of the red and stick more to the turquoise and chartreuse and orange. And it looks like there's like what do we want to call that? Maybe chartreuse. That's close enough, I think. Do we want to go neon? I'm not mad about that. I think that works. So I think that also works. If we pull in all these fun colors, there's another ball of that. And it's got purple in it too. So maybe we pull in some purple. Anyway, I'll finish up grabbing all of our fun colors that'll go into our next scarf, and meet you back at the table where we can figure out how they're all going to go together. So I went through and picked out yarns that all played nicely together, and we're all sort of in the same color family. And I did that with you all. So we have all of our bright colors, and you just find things that play well together. So for this situation, I had this is sort of my backup. If I run out of yarn before I've hit the right number of squares, I can always use these bigger skeins to make filler squares and just fill in the blanks. So you start with all your little balls of yarn. And so I have all these happy little bright color ones. This is my real sewing room, which I share with my 3 teenage daughters who also all sew. And in order to get anything done, we all kind of just shove the extra things to the side so we can use the cutting table. For the most part, it stays pretty tidy. Every once in a while, I have to tackle this pile over here, but for now, we just have lots of baskets. Like, this is our community embroidery floss stash. It's so cool to be part of a family of makers, and to have a space that we can all use. And it teaches us how to get along and share space with one another. So, all right, what you need to know. So let's jump back to the one I made already. I made what's called mitered squares. You start in the corner very tiny, and they grow one row at a time and get bigger and bigger. And so if you have thicker yarn, you can do fewer rows. And if you have thinner yarn, you can do more rows. And all you really need to do is make sure that you use a thicker crochet hook for the thicker yarn and a thinner crochet hook for the thinner yarn. If you use this little hook for this thick yarn, it will make such dense stitches that this will be a very inflexible and almost hard square. And so when you put it into the scarf, it'll just be kind of this chunk, this big lump in the scarf that's just kind of texture-wise, it's not great. I used yarns as thick as this with this nice big needle. Generally, you want your needle to be a little bit fatter than the yarn. So kind of a way to gauge that. So this was a, what size are you? N? 15? No, it's a 10 millimeter. And this is a size J. All you really need for this project are crochet hooks, a rug needle, and some scissors. That's it. I guess I used 3 sizes, but however many you have, that's however many you have. So you said about making your squares. Now I am not going to teach you how to make these squares because someone else already did an excellent tutorial, and we are going to link that below on how to do a mitered square. And if you don't like that person's teaching style, just look up mitered square crochet tutorial and it'll teach you how to do this. But I really found that this was the easiest way to get consistent squares that were pretty much 3 inches. And I chose 3 inches because it's pretty easy to hit, and you don't have to be all exactly the same. You can see that this is close, but not like perfect. As long as they're close, the littler ones will stretch a little bit and it all works out in the end. Your scarf might end up a little bit lumpy like this one, but that is part of its charm. That's part of the like Mrs. Weasley-ness of it all. Okay, so once you've made enough squares, now I did a rows of 3, so multiples of 3. I would say probably the shortest you're gonna want it is 25 long. Mine is 27 long, and it is taller than I am by quite a bit. You want your scarves to be at least as tall as you are. Taller for me is better. So this is 27. If you made a 25 square or 25 row, it's still plenty big. So if you're thinking a 25 row, then you'll need 75 squares. So you just keep crocheting, starting with the littlest balls of thread, balls of yarn, and using them all up until you get to your biggest skeins, because this is a scrap busting project. So you choose the hook that goes best with whatever size yarn, make your squares, and once you have 75 of them, or some other multiple of 3, then you're going to find a table or a stretch of floor, and you're going to lay them all out, and you're going to play with them and lay them out and play with different arrangements and look at them and step back and maybe step to the other side, maybe get on a chair and look at them from up high, and you're going to rearrange until you're happy with it. Then what I did is I took this box and I picked them up in order and I set them in stacks for each row in this box. And that worked out pretty well for me. Another way you could stack them together is to use these threads that hang off the ends to stitch the batches together for each row. Now, I left long tails on my squares so that when I was sewing it together, I had thread already on my squares that I could use to sew it together. All I did was I took my rug needle and I took my squares and I literally just sewed them together. That's it. Like, just stitched them together. Very simple whip stitch, in and out. This is scrappy. It's kind of rustic, primitive, whatever you want to call it. Not sure I like the word primitive, but anyway, it's not meant to be super polished. It's just kind of fun. So my stitches are visible. You can see them. And that's okay. It all just kind of blends together and gets lost in the mix. So you just sew them together, and then when you get to the end, you bury your thread, which involved me just running back through my stitches to just bury the thread. which I'm not going to pull it all the way tight, but basically you hide the thread in the stuff you've already stitched and snip it off. You just do this over and over again while you're streaming movies or series on Netflix or whatever, until you have built an amazing square patchwork scarf. Once you get them all sewn together, you are well on your way to grandma chic. I hope this one's fun for you all. I had a good time making this. I was super inspired and kind of couldn't wait to get to the couch and watch Silo and sew my squares together.
All right, you guys, that's it for this month's Three Thrifty Things. I hope that these tips bring some warmth and practicality into your life this season. And if you have any wise advice passed down from a grandmother or a great aunt, godmother, some other wise woman in your life, we would love to hear them down in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and stick around for next month's Three Thrifty Things. See you then!